I don't think I've done one of these videos in a really long time, but this developer update is actually so huge to the point where obviously I have to. Number one, the slugging reduction update. So we saw this actually last year, or earlier this year rather, where they said that they were going to be changing slugging as well as, you know, the anti-camp, anti-tunnel stuff. We didn't really know what it was. We had a hint of it. They actually tested it a while back, and this was where if you were on the ground for about 45 seconds, you could just pick yourself up. But now they have changed it. They scrapped that. You know, that was the one that rolled out with the finisher Mori, but of course they took it out, worked on it again, and then they came back to it. But now they've changed it to where if a survivor is left in the dying state for a total of 90 seconds throughout an entire match, they gain the ability to pick themselves up after fully recovering. But the big thing for me right here is that not only did they increase the crawling speed for survivors, they also added the ability for survivors to recover while crawling, which I don't know what they're going to do to tenacity if that's the case. Maybe tenacity is just like a little bit better. Honestly, that is a huge thing, if I'm being honest. That is actually a massive thing. That is definitely not what I had pictured, but if I was being honest, the way that the abandoned system works now, where if everybody's down or if, like, you know, you're on the ground and somebody else is on the hook, I'm perfectly fine with the abandoned system. I don't really think we need the anti-slugging. Plus, we also just got Conviction, which is still incredibly good. We have Unbreakable, we also have Expo, etc. We also have Solgar. Like, I'm just saying, I just don't feel like it was necessary, right? Definitely not what I expected, but I know a lot of people are really upset at that. 90 seconds in total. I think it should just be base 90 seconds, one time only, if that. Because 90 seconds in total is a really long time. And I feel like for me, I don't think I've ever fully slugged somebody like that. Not really. Like, especially since they've changed the way that hooks respawn. I don't know, I don't think this would bother me personally, but I do think that the tenacity part is the thing that's gonna get annoying. We also have the tunneling reduction update. I'm sorry, this one for me, I feel like is probably the most what the hell. So the tunneling reduction update, when a survivor is hooked, their status is hidden from the killer. When they're unhooked, there is no notification and their hook status isn't revealed immediately. What the actual fuck? So I feel like for me, I like to count my hook states, especially if I'm playing in a more lenient way. Like, I 2-hook everybody and then I'll let everybody go. Now I have to keep tabs on it. I'm sorry, I stream to 3 different platforms at once while also reading all of those 3 chats, but also playing the video game. What the fuck? I don't know. I just, you know, there are some changes that I honestly think behavior does not have any idea, like the fucking Pandora's box that they've unleashed. This though, I think this is definitely taking the cake. Unhooked survivors also gain the following effects for a limited time: haste, endurance, and elusive, which is a new status effect that they have. Anyways, the elusive status effect added a new status effect that silences grunts of pain and suppresses survivor aura, pools of blood, and scratch marks. Ooh, interesting. No collision with other players, both killer and survivor. I've actually said this a really long time ago. If they really wanted to stop tunneling and stop people from abusing the base kit borrowed time, but also further borrowed time, just make it so that they don't have any collision. And I had so many people tell me all these years, that'll never work and it'll just be abused, or it'll automatically prioritize such and such and such and such. But they also said immunity to killer instinct and sees the killer's aura nearby. This is one of the first times that they've made it so that you're not being detected by killer instinct. There's nothing in the game that can hide you from a killer instinct. Not getting in a locker, no shadow step, no distortion. That will never affect killer instinct. Of course, these effects are lost when the survivor affected performs a conspicuous action. So anytime you like touch a djinn, a totem, start a heal on yourself or another survivor, etc. Yeah. All of these effects, except haste and endurance, are disabled once generators are completed, which is kind of nice. I like that. Like a kind of free-for-all. But they also added a unique effect to the killer hook state UI that indicates the last survivor that they hooked. Interesting. So I guess you can kind of keep track. After completing a unique hook, the same survivor is not hooked consecutively, killers will get the following benefits: bonus damage for the next gen kick, temporary haste status effect, temporarily reveal survivors like Base Kid, Barbecue, and Chili, but that have less or equal hook states to the hook survivor. These effects are slightly lessened for Blight, Dark Lord, Ghoul, Hillbilly, and Nurse. I'm surprised to see Spirit is not in that lineup, but it's also the fact that they have not specified how exactly it's lessened. These effects are disabled once all generators are completed, sure. And And they added new effects that desensitize tunneling. If a survivor dies before 6 total hook states, all remaining survivors gain a repair speed bonus for the rest of the trial. Wow. The survivor that was last hooked is sacrificed or killed. Generators cannot be regressed or blocked. What? I wonder how specific this is. From reading some of the comments, like, yeah, you could just not tunnel, sure. But there are so many cases where I may accidentally tunnel, right? Or it may be such a case where everybody else is literally just too strong. And there have been times when I keep finding the same survivor, you know, and they've gotten displaced and they decide to run into me again. I don't think that I should have to let that survivor go just because, or everybody else might just be ratting. I have had instances like that as well. So I feel like it's not very fair to punish it. Like, I feel like these kinds of effects, like, let's say, you know, oh, if you've hooked the last survivor again, maybe it should only last for about the next 2 minutes or so. Like, after 2 minutes, it's fair game or something. But even then, that's a lot to keep track of. I don't know. We'll really have to see what it's like in action, because there are a lot of times, like I said, where I accidentally do it, okay? Sometimes on purpose, though. Teehee. So somehow they have decided to make Myers a dash killer. No, I'm not joking. Okay, they replaced Evil Within with 2 modes that can be toggled with a button press. Stalker mode, so 4.2 ms movement speed, undetectable, stalking survivors. And then Pursuer mode, 4.6 movement speed, a 24-meter terror radius, increased vault speed, bonuses to lunge range, break speed, and stun recovery, and cannot stalk survivors. I'm really confused by this because I hate when they start adding base kit things in there, like vault speed and lunge range, etc., because then combined with perks, you know, like BAM, Superior Anatomy, Coup, it starts becoming tricky to balance. And then it kind of feels like they pull a lot of resources into this big new fancy update, and then they kind of have to walk it back, and then it's kind of back at square one, you know what I'm saying? But once the stalk meter is full, Evil Incarnate mode can be triggered at will, granting the following effects for a limited time. Survivors no longer become exposed. Wait, what? Okay, I don't like that. I feel like the whole thing that made him really interesting was the threat of like the insta-down. With Evil Incarnate triggered, 4.6 movement speed, a 40-meter terror radius, and an increased vault speed. Unlocks the Slaughtering Strike ability. Hold the power button to charge this ability, reducing movement speed. Press the attack button while charging to quickly lunge forward, adjusting your angle as you move. The length of the lunge depends on charge time. If a survivor enters the killer's attack range while lunging, they are knocked into the dying state. This ability can also be used to destroy pallets. Unlocks the ability to grab or kill perform a regular Mori on survivors who would die the next time that they are hooked. That's pretty cool. I like how they took the one thing that people really did complain about for Myers on the survivor side and said, you know what, fuck it, base kit. That's kind of funny. This is like the finisher Mori situation all over again. I guarantee you, they're probably gonna walk that step back. But they also adjusted some mechanics of stalking, removed the limited pool of stalk points per survivor. Oh, I mean, I guess. They reduced the stalk range to 32 meters and removed the distance modifier. Is interesting because the further you were away from Myers, the more stalk you would get, which is kind of cool. But I don't think anybody really knew about that. Only like real DBD nerds did. So. And then moving while stalking has increased movement speed but incurs a reduced stalk rate. And it really stinks too because the PTB at this point for the slated time release is September 2nd, which directly interacts with 2v8. And if you know anything about 2v8 and DBD, it means that a large portion of the player base that would actually be invested in seeing what's new on the PTB can't give as much feedback because 2v8 is kind of clogging all of it. So many people have already gotten so tired of dash slop. I don't mind dash slop in my opinion though. I kind of like Wesker. I like Blight. I can't lie. I think they're fun to play. I think they're also fun to play against. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm the odd one out there. But then we also have the Clown. They increase the activation time of the afterpiece antidote, increase how long the afterpiece tonic's hindered effect lingers after leaving the smoke. So this is really good, actually. They listened to some feedback there. That's really nice. I think the big issue with Clown was that, again, the activation time was turn off your brain, throw bottle at feet, zoom. That's what a lot of people didn't like, including myself. But I think behavior has this really interesting balance thing that they do where they decide, okay, well, such and such thing is not getting used enough, in our opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, you know? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's useless. It's just that people aren't using it. And then they decide to buff the fuck out of the killer or the perk or the add-on, whatever it might be. And then they realize, okay, so maybe it was fine. But I just don't like that they pull resources into different things that people weren't really complaining about or things that weren't necessarily problematic, only to pull it back and then go, okay, well, that's different. I think that these resources could easily be going to something else that actually needs attention, just saying. The unknown as well. This is really good because the unknown, if you guys do not know, has the ability to do amazing trick shots, but he was really limited by his camera's vertical range. You were not able to look all the way up, but it also really sucked because if you're going against competent survivors that know how to break LOS easily or just nonstop look at you and, you know, you're in the middle of an open map, it's kind of just GG's in that situation. And following up with, you know, one of his projectile attacks to down the survivor it's difficult. It's frustrating, just saying. They also increased the movement speed recovery after teleporting, which is really good because it felt very sluggish. You know, one thing that I really like about Dredge is that immediately after teleporting, you have full control. There's no weird hinder to it. And I wish that they would update other killers. This is like one of my big pet peeves. You may not notice it if you don't play a lot of other killers, but for example, some killers immediately after you finish their power, some of them you're able to actually fully regain control and whatnot, others you are not. One of my biggest issues with that on a killer is Wesker. After using one of his dashes and the animation is over, whatever, there's like 0.5 of a second where you do not have control of him just yet. Like even if you're like spamming the hell out of M1, you're just not able to hit. It doesn't feel very good. I just wish that they would kind of keep it in unison, recognize that this issue is not applying just to unknown. I'm happy that they remember that the unknown exists, don't get me wrong. I just think that they could also bring other killers in line for that as well. I think unknown is one of the killers out of the entire roster that is very much so deserving of a buff. I think unknown is probably one of their best original chapters. I think the hype and promo for it and everything they did on socials was like right. It's just that it was a little disappointing, you know. Still fun to play. I still enjoy him. I just think that a little bit of love is gonna go a long way with these particular changes, just saying. We also have the Dark Lord as well. In his vampire form, they slightly reduced the Hellfire cooldown, increased total Hellfire pillars by 1, reduced the Hellfire charge movement speed, slightly increased slowdown time after casting Hellfire. In his wolf form, they increased the Pounce attack charge time, they increased the Sin Orb spawn time, and then for his bat form, they increased the movement friction to make flying easier to control and then adjusted his add-ons. This is really interesting because I don't think that he needed any changes necessarily outside of bug fixes, but I guess we'll see how it goes. Hellfire is no doubt, though, in his vampire form, the strongest ability outside of his bat form, but you can hit some nasty shots with that, and increasing the Hellfire pillars just by 1. I know it may not seem like a lot. It is a big distance, just saying. And then Ghoul, when grabbing a survivor on the other side of a vault with the Kagune leap, the survivor is released at the start of the Ghoul's vault instead of at the end. So Kidnap Tech is now found dead in a ditch. Yippee! And then for Oni, hugging a survivor now spawns more blood orbs. This is really nice. I like this. And then perk updates to various perks. In addition to the general perk balance that you could expect with each release, we've also made a number of adjustments to account for the new systems coming to DBD this update, especially relating to slugging and tunneling. If you guys enjoy the video when it comes out, or if you enjoy my content in general, please make sure that you guys subscribe. We're actually super close to hitting full YouTube partner with full monetization. Just saying, we're also live on YouTube usually every single day, except for, you know, Mondays and occasionally Tuesdays, just saying.